to order. Thank you all for coming. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mrs. Cicchini.
Here.
Mrs. Deli is not here. Mr. Gassion.
Here.
Mrs. Morocco. Here. Mrs. Simmons. Here. Mrs. Space is not here. Mrs. Malone. Here. Mrs. Lobari. Here. Mrs. Tortorella.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Please join me in the flag salute. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Sussex-Wantage Regional School District Board of Education has caused notice of the meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the school building and notice of said meeting sent to the New Jersey Herald and the Star Ledger. The Sussex-Wantage Regional School District is a responsive, caring, child-centered community. Our mission is to educate each individual to become a confident, competent, lifelong learner and productive, responsible citizen by providing challenging opportunities in a safe environment through partnerships of families, schools, and communities. At this time, we will move on to the report of the Superintendent of Schools.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Mr. Schwartz up to present this month's Student of the Month.
These values and all that they add to our school. These values and all that they add to the community, and we acknowledge the strong work ethic that she demonstrates consistently. At SMS, Peyton enjoys language arts and social studies where she continues to excel. Outside of school, she has a variety of interests, including riding her quads and spending time with her friends. What truly stands out about Peyton is her character. She has a strong sense of right and wrong, and she is consistently making positive impacts as an upstander, supporting those around her. In 8th grade, our recipient is Layla Purcell. Layla is an exceptional student who consistently demonstrates dedication and enthusiasm in everything she does. She has shared that her favorite classes are science and gym, where her teachers keep her engaged and make learning fun and interesting.
The boys basketball team had a phenomenal season, finishing strong. They won the hardest hitting tournament for the second year in a row. Matthew Shepard was awarded MVP and Christopher Constante was appointed All-County Player. We are very proud of our basketball team. Lots of great projects are happening throughout the middle school. Just this week, we saw Vera did her healthy salad project with the 7th grade health class, where students brought in healthy salads. Everyone loved trying salads that they brought were going to be disgusting and ended up loving them. 7th grade health students learned salads are good. The play is having rehearsals every day and they cannot wait to present Frozen in the beginning of the year. Stay tuned to see whether SMS is going to be under the D for you. Student Council is sponsoring their 3rd activity night Friday night. Students have been looking forward to another activity night and cannot wait for it. Thank you for allowing us to share with you this week and all the great activities that we've been having here at Sussex-Wantage.
Thank you, girls. Great job. Why don't we always encourage everyone to stay for the duration of the meeting? If you didn't want to do that, now would be an opportune time to leave. We do it all with intermission for you. No pressure.
Thank you.
That's her. And just to report out on a couple committee meetings over the past month. We had a curriculum meeting. Curriculum folks are working on our QSAC review. That's a semi-yearly process that the county comes in and kind of restore their documents in order to do. Stimulac has been working with the principals and the tech department on our annual testing administration, a lot of back end stuff that they have to program into computers. Our learning pods are underway. It's an after-school kind of tutoring type program. We had a facility, buildings and grounds committee meeting. As we talked about before, we have a window project that we're anticipating being completed hopefully over the summer over at Sussex Middle School here. The front windows wrapped around to this side, Mrs. Lowen's science room there. So we did some preliminary lead testing in the windows, which came back fine. You have to do that before they're replaced. Student Achievement Committee's been meeting ongoing. This time around, we met with administrators, our RTI coordinator, and our pre-K coach. Some things that came up that didn't necessarily come up in the last meeting were things like transitional kindergarten. Sussex has had that in the past at the Lawrence School. So some of the folks down there think that would be a nice segue to go from pre-K, especially if you're very young, rather than jumping right to kindergarten, doing one group of we call it transitional kindergarten. So you kind of get 2 years of kindergarten. Homework remains a topic of discussion for student achievement. Overall, just trying to kind of meet the needs of all students. So kids who are more emergent learners, along with kids who are in advanced grouping, like how do we meet them in our scheduling and meet their needs. Special thanks to the Sussex County Board of Commissioners for funding vape sensors throughout the county. For schools, particular Director Carney and Deputy Director Space, we appreciate that. Sussex Middle School already had those, and they're also reimbursing some of those costs, so that's great. And just to echo the statements of our student council, congratulations to both the boys and girls basketball teams and the cheerleaders for their outstanding season. As she mentioned, the boys won the Hardison tournament. I had the opportunity to attend that game. It was a great game, real nail biter, and congratulations to Matthew Shepard for MVP. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. At this time, we'll move on to audience remarks. Members of the audience are invited to make brief comments about items on this agenda and matters of interest to the district. Any public comments? All right, seeing none, we will move on to the board secretary certification, please.
Pursuant to NJAC 6A 23A-16.10C3, I certify that as of January 31st, 2025, no line item account has encumbrances and expenditures which in total exceed the line item appropriation in violation of NJAC 6A 23A-16.10A.
Thank you, Mrs. Riker. At this time, we'll move on to the approval of board minutes for January 30th, 2025, regular and executive session. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Malone?
Yes.
Mrs. Morocco?
Yes.
Mrs. Chacchini?
Yes.
Mr. Gashion?
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Barry? Yes. Mrs. Torrella?
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
We do not need executive session at this time, so we will move on to the presentation of agenda items, please.
Thank you. On the agenda, under personnel, I'd like to do items 1 through 14.
Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
Mrs. Chacchini?
Yes.
Mr. Gashion?
Yes.
Mrs. Morocco?
Yes.
Mrs. Malone?
Yes.
Mrs. Torrella?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under policy, I'd like to move items 1 and 2.
Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Chacchini?
Yes.
Mr. Gashion?
Yes.
Mrs. Morocco?
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
Mrs. Malone?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Barry? Yes. Mrs. Torrella?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under finance, I'd like to move items 1 through 10.
Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
Mrs. Malone?
Yes.
Mrs. Chacchini?
Yes.
Mr. Gashion?
Yes.
Mrs. Morocco?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
Mrs. Torrella?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under special services, I'd like to move items 1 through 7.
Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
Mrs. Malone?
Yes.
Mrs. Chacchini?
Yes.
Mr. Gashion?
Yes.
Mrs. Morocco?
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
Mrs. Torrella?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under curriculum, I'd like to move item number 1.
Can I get a motion, please?
I'll motion.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
Mrs. Morocco?
Yes.
Mrs. Chacchini?
Yes.
Mr. Gashion?
Yes.
Mrs. Malone?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
Mrs. Torrella?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And referring to the addendum under personnel, I'd like to move items 1 through 6.
Excuse me, can I get a motion? Thank you, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, any discussion? Roll call please.
Mrs. Malone?
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
Mrs. Chacini?
Yes.
Mr. Gashion?
Yes.
Mrs. Morocco?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
Mrs. Tortorella?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under policy, I'd like to move item number 1.
Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call please.
Mr. Gashion?
Yes.
Mrs. Morocco?
Yes.
Mrs. Chacini?
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
Mrs. Malone?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
Mrs. Tortorella?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under finance, I'd like to move items 1 through 4.
Can I get a motion please?
I'll motion.
Thank you, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, any discussion? Roll call please.
Mrs. O'Barry? Yes. Mr. Gashion?
Yes.
Mrs. Chacini?
Yes.
Mrs. Morocco?
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
Mrs. Malone?
Yes.
Mrs. Tortorella?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under special services, I'd like to move items 1 through 6.
Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call please.
Mrs. Malone?
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
Mrs. Chacini?
Yes.
Mr. Gashion?
Yes.
Mrs. Morocco?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Barry? Yes. Mrs. Tortorella?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And under curriculum, I'd like to move item number 1.
Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, any discussion? Roll call please.
Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
Mrs. Chacini?
Yes.
Mr. Gashion?
Yes.
Mrs. Morocco?
Yes.
Mrs. Malone?
Yes.
Mrs. Tortorella?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, at this time we'll move on to unfinished business. Does the board have any unfinished business they would like to discuss? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. Does the board have any new business that they would like to discuss? Seeing none, at this time we'll move on to audience remarks. Members of the audience are invited to make brief comments about items on this agenda and matters of interest to the district. Are there any public comments?
Mrs. Sparta? That's okay.
Come
On the committee that you guys meet for, the, whatever it's called, I don't know what the correct terminology for it. So, do parents get invited, like, how does that work? I'd like to be on that.
Yeah, so we have another committee meeting scheduled for the next week or the following week. I think we'll talk about some of the logistics of engaging parents, whether it's through survey or being part of it directly.
Okay, cool.
Any other public comments?
What's up?
Okay.
Well, I got.
All right, cool, thank you. Seeing none, we do need to go into executive session at this time. It would be approximately 30 minutes, no action will be taken. Mrs. Riker, if I can get a resolution.
Whereas pursuant to NJSA 10-4-12B, the Sussex-Wantage Regional Board of Education may exclude the public from that portion of a public meeting at which the board discusses any of the matters described at NJSA 10-4-12B 1 through 9. Now therefore be resolved that the Sussex-Wantage Regional Board of Education shall enter into closed session to discuss legal matters. Now therefore be it further resolved by the Sussex-Wantage Regional Board of Education that pursuant to NJSA 10-4-13B, the time when and the circumstances under which the discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public is when the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
Thank you, Mrs. Riker. Can I get a motion to go into executive session?
I'll motion.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye. Any no? All right, we'll see you guys in about 30 minutes. Thank you. session. Thank you for waiting. Can I get a motion for adjournment?
All motion.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? All right, thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.